Alright YouTubes, in today's video we've got an Audi S6 to paint and it's a little bit different this one. Normally, you know, production cars, we're going to try and match the production finish. That's the aim, to try and make it look like it's not been painted and match the factory orange peel. But we've got to do the opposite on this one. Yeah, it's a production car, but this vehicle's had a complete repaint and it's had a complete flat and polish all over. So we've got to try and replicate that. And it's not a bad job. I'll give you a look at it in a minute. It's not a bad job. Maybe a couple of reasons why it was flat and polished. It's had a full complete repaint and it's been done quite a while ago. So it's held up quite well. But obviously if we paint this and leave texture how we would normally do ours, because I always like to try and match the factory orange peel. If we do it that way, it's not going to tie in with the rest. So it's a bit of an opposite one. We put in like a show car glass finish on a production car. It's Misano red, I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's a nice red. It's got some sort of like goldy pearl in it in the sun. And we've got to paint the whole front end. And the reason for front end, it has dyed, it's pulled in and drawn back a little bit, and it's just stone chipped, and it's killed off a little bit. So we've got the whole front end to do, a little bit of corrosion on this aluminium wing to take care of, and you know, same on the wings, some chips, and they're sort of being used for blending. Same on this side, no sort of dings or dents or accident damage on it. And the front bumper, which Reese has already gone ahead, stripped it all off and prepped it, so that's ready for primer. So we're just going to prime it all over. This colour needs white undercoat on my system, so yeah, it's all going to be primed in white. So I'll give you a look at the car, and it's a pretty decent job, to be fair. Can't really see any sort of accident damages. There would have been probably a couple of reasons why this was flat and polished. It was either flat and polished because whoever had it resprayed, the customer I'm doing this for, bought this car like it, and he knew it had been resprayed and he knows a bit about it. He's a subscriber as well, so he's going to want to watch this video. They had a respray and they wanted a glass finish on it, a show car looking finish on there, or they just had a lot of dirt and stuff in the paint. I can sort of see, you know, if you really look at it, but you can see, well, it's probably a bit hard to see in here, but there's no texture in it at all, and they've gone pretty, you know, it's difficult to get into every edge on flat and polishing, so you will find some areas that still got a bit of texture to it, like right up to the moulding, but it's pretty flat, to be fair. So they've done a good decent job of flat and polishing it. You know, every inch of it's been flat and polished. And yeah, you look down it, it's not like really ripply or anything, but all the texture has been taken out of it. But I think it's been done quite a while ago, a good, you know, couple of years or so. It would have been resprayed, so it's held up quite well. I find sometimes with a flat and polished finish, oh, it's lovely, yeah, when it's done it looks like glass, but I find it loses a bit of protection. I find it's more susceptible to scratching and swirling, having that flatter glass of finish. And obviously if it hasn't been flow coated neither, ideally I think if you're going to do a flat and polished look on your vehicle, if you're having it painted or whatever and you want that glass flat and polished completely flat look, I think it's better to do a flow coat and then do it, because you get that better depth of gloss, because you know you're going to be putting 2-3 coats maximum, really, especially with high solid clear coats. You're not going to be putting more than that on in one visit. When you flat that off, and you need to sort of attack it quite coarsely to get it flat, if you start at like the 1500 sort of grit or 2000, if you want that complete flat glass look, you're riding over a bit of texture with that, and you're not going to get it complete dead flat, so you need to cut in coarse. And I find 1200 grit wet and dry is the best one to start with, or even 1000 grit. You could even go 800 grit really, but you've got a lot of work then working through all the grades, you know. So yeah, like I say, the downside, if it's you know, been painted once, not flow coated, and then you're going for flat and polish, you're taking a, you know, a good bit of film off of that, a good bit of clear coat off of that. So then that makes that clear coat sort of weaker in a way, where there's not as much protection on there, so UV can attack it, and obviously it's easier to scratch if it's just done on the, you know, the clear coat that's been put on there initially. Like I say, flow coating it will give you more depth and give you more scope for flat and polishing. So there's sort of the downsides to having that glass finish. And I find, you know, paint could be left for a long time, flat and polish. It needs to be revisited as well, polish wise, I think, because over time your products will shrink and completely cure right off. And when you've taken, you know, a good layer of film build off of there for the flat and polishing stage, over a bit of time, it draws in and shrivels up a little bit. So I've asked to have, you know, a repolish. Quite often vehicles that are having flat and polishing done and glass finishes, people are going for glass finishes, they're on show cars and classic cars and restoration, so they're not, like, you know, they're not exposed. Those types of vehicles, the majority of the time, are kept indoors, kept in a garage. They're not used all the time, kept indoors in the winter, so they're not getting exposed to the elements. But this is, you know, a daily car for somebody. It's being used all the time. It's, you know, being kept outside all the time. It's going through the different cycles of weather and stuff. So, you know, having a flat and polished look on there, having a flat and polished finish on there, it will be prone to being attacked by the elements, you know. So it's held up well, I think, considering, like I say, it's been done for quite a while. So yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing on the front end, and we're going to be doing the flat and polishing to make it look like the rest, and we're going to machine polish, 3-stage machine polish the rest of the car. And you know, there's the odd, you know, another thing as well, the odd flatting mark starts reappearing after a while as well when we're fully cured. It's hard to say because it depends what clears on there and how long it was left before it was flat and polished. If it was done quite soon, which makes it easier to polish if the paint's still not fully cured, but over time the curing continues, and then you get a bit of flatting marks coming back and stuff like that. And there's so many ways you can flat and polish. You know, I like to at least get to 3,000 grit before I'm gonna polish if I work through the grades, or even go to 6,000 grit, and it sort of minimises that amount of you know, come back on the flatting marks and stuff like that. To get it dead flat, you want to start off quite coarse to cut through that initial texture and orange peel. You want to start off quite coarse and then work your way through the grades. So I find sort of 1200 wet and dry on a squidgy type block, flexible block, cut it through, try and keep it flat, because again, you can create ripples. You can create ripples in the clear coat, and that, you know, once you've got all that texture off and it's glass looking, then ripples are highlighted, you know. So that's what we've got to do on this one. We're putting a show car finish on a production car. So I'm going to film a bit of the preparation, get it all prepped up for primer. I'm going to be doing some probably spot priming over this bonnet, front bumper all primed up. So we'll get it all prepped up and get it up to primer stage. Alright, YouTubes. So yeah, start off with a corrosion on that wing. So just use a little green roll-up wheel on a little die grinder. Got to be a bit careful on aluminium. Don't want to dig into it with anything too coarse. So green plastic roll-up wheel, just to take off all the blistering and flaking paint. And quite often you'll find under aluminium, unless it's really severe, the aluminium will be pretty clean afterwards. Doesn't sort of pit so much like steel would. So yeah, you have to be a bit careful because it's quite easy to cut into it and misshape it and take too much material away. So just finishing off, just to get the roll-up marks out, just finishing off with a 180 grit on a little 75-inch mini DA. I'm trying to keep away colour-wise. I want to try and keep as much colour away from that door as possible. Obviously, where it's been resprayed, and I did sort of notice later on, the sun's sort of made the effect. This colour Misano red, it's really difficult. It looks like a straight flat red until you get it in sort of bright sunlight and stuff like that. You can see a little bit of pearl popping out of it, but it's quite a small amount. But I noticed that this had a bit more effect in it on this colour. I think it's due to the sun being on it, because there's some areas that had more effect to it than others. It was not, you wouldn't really notice it. I only noticed it by putting the colour light on it, you know, colour matching light on there. You can really see the effect pop out of it, and it just seemed to have a bit more effect than in some places than it did others. So yeah, I want to try and keep the colour away from the door as much as possible, but it was a bit tight down the bottom. So prepping wise, I've done all the front of that bonnet. I've done that with 220 grit, and now I'm just going through the middle of it with 500 grit, and then I'll just go up the ends just to give me a little bit of blending room just at the top corners of that bonnet. I prep them as blending, so 800 grit on a DA, 1000 grit soft pad and grey scotch. I sort of always do that on bonnets, and you know, obviously when it's coming in for a bonnet, it's coming in for chips, you're going to want to do all the chips, but you've got such a small tight area between the end of the bonnet at the top corners, then the top corner of the wing always meets the door, so that's a little small area if you're trying to keep colour away on a front end. That's always a little bit of a tricky area depending on what vehicle it is. So if there's no chips up there, I always give myself blending room, especially if I've got a bit of a trouble colour. So plenty of room to blend the faces and the wings. Same again process, 800 grit on the dual action sander, 1000 grit soft pad just to get in the edges. Obviously being a bit careful because this car's been flat and polished, there's always a bit more of a risk that there's not a lot of clear coat and I could bust through it. Right then, YouTubes, the Audi's all ready now for primer, so we're just getting it masked up now, and yeah, just quickly go through. Obviously, looking at this car, constantly looking at it, where it's had a respray and it's all been flat and polished, you can sort of see a bit more in the booth, and yeah, it's a nice finish. It's started to draw in places, but considering I think it's been done for quite a while, it's held up well. It looks decent. Still in two minds whether they flat and polish it because they wanted this type of glass finish, or because it may have had, you know, dirt nibs and a bit of contamination. I can see the odd little bit here and there, maybe the odd little sort of chip or wax hole that's sunk, and a few nibs that haven't been quite taken out. But yeah, it's really flat, really glassy looking. Like I say, it's drawn in a little bit and hazed off, but obviously when it's machine polished, that'll come up lovely. So I've had a good look around this car now, in the booth, and this whole car has been painted, and from what I can see, that the whole car has been painted apart from the roof. The roof's got a, you know, that definitely looks like an Audi finish to me. Nice finish on Audis anyway from factory, and obviously roofs and bonnets, flat surfaces are going to have a wetter finish in the sides, but it's got some texture in it. That hasn't been painted to me. That looks original. It's not been flat and polished. Nor is the spoiler. And nor has the top of this tailgate. The bottom half has. It's a bit hard to see now in this light. This bottom half has definitely been flat and polished. Been painted and flat and polished. But the top of this tailgate hasn't. And the roof and the spoiler, which, I don't know. To me, I know some issues would be for painting this roof with this rubber for this pan roof. That would be an issue, so that would make me decide maybe not to paint it. But not sure on this tailgate why you would paint the bottom half, the quarters. You can see a slight colour variation there. And me and the customer have had a look, and you look in the door jambs, the car looks a little bit darker to the original colour, but not a million miles away. So yeah, just thought I'd show you sort of what the finish looks like in here. Flatted top to bottom, even the arches, the arch lips have been flat and polished. And it's a nice job. It is a nice job. It's a difficult job to do, to get it nice and even and consistent everywhere without creating ripples and creating mismatch of textures and finishes, because it's hard to get in some areas. But no, it's had a lot of time spent on this to get this to this stage. But yeah, bit of a funny one, bit of a strange one, not doing the top of that boot. I understand the roof and maybe the spoiler, not doing that. But yeah, bit of a strange one, just to leave the top of that boot when you've done the bumper, the quarters either side, and the bottom of the boot. Bit of a strange one. I don't think it would have been that much extra effort to do that boot. But yeah, it's almost a repaint then, I suppose. So, get it all bagged up, get some primer on it. I need to treat a little bit of this bare aluminium with some epoxy. I've got some wet on wet epoxy, so I'll fluff a bit of that on there first, let that tack off, and then get some 2-pack primer on there.
So onto prepping the primer now. My usual procedure, block it all with 320 grit first, guide coat it, block it all with 320 grit, get all the block work done, and then I go round edges and curves and stuff like that where I can't get in with the blocks so well, soften them up with 320 grit soft pads, and then over it again, guide coat it over it again with 500 grit. For a colour like this I will leave it in 500 grit. For some more higher metallic colour and it's got a high metallic content in the colour, then I do finish in 600 grit. So I do all different types of blocking, circles, diagonal, cross hatching and straight, and I like to, once I sort of get the bulk of it down, especially where, you know, where I haven't primed that whole bonnet and I've got a masking edge, I like to block right through that. It's got quite a high build, this the primer that's on this is Mipa 4+1. If you're not regular to my channel, my whole paint system's Mipa. Just it's the high build mixing ratio of that, and it's got a good fair build on it, and I do put a fair amount on there, so you can run the risk of actually seeing a level in the end of the primer. I do try and feather it out when I prime it, but I like to, as you can see now, I like to follow the way you would look at a panel in straight lines. I don't leave it in straight lines, I do then start going back over it with circles and crisscrossing, just to take out any like score marks that I may have put in there by going straight. But I do like to get it in straight lines, following the way you look down the panels, on the side panels, bonnets, the way you look down a panel, that's the way I block. I just find it, I get a bit of a flatter result, and with this being a flat and polished job as well, I don't want to see any ripples in my primer, because you can, you know, you might not even have repairs, but you could still see ripples in your primer if it's not blocked through and blocked nice and straight. So block it like filler really, just get it in straight lines and then marry it all up with a combination of little circles and crisscrossing. I like to break it all down into sections as well. If there's feature lines, I do one section, get that all blocked, move on to the next section, get all my lines in, and then go round, like I say, with 320 soft pad, and then follow that with a soft pad on the DA, 500 grit, and the same again, 500 grit soft pad. So this was a bit of a different job for me. I quite enjoyed it, flat and polishing. Well, I'm mainly doing production cars. I don't do a lot of full resprays. I've done a full respray for quite a long time now. I've never done one on the channel. I haven't done any classic or restoration stuff for a long time neither, so that would be the last time where I've done, you know, proper flat and polishing, not denibbing, but flattening out all the orange peel, flattening out all the gun finish that I've put on there. So I enjoy it. I really enjoy the flat and polishing, because the results you get at the end of it, when, you know, when it's done right, it's really satisfying to look at, and so it was a pleasure to do. And like I said, it was a bit different. You know, with a glass looking finish, there's lots of stuff about getting glass out the gun and spraying glass, but a true flat and polished glass finish on a flat panel, horizontal panel, you can lay clear down and get it to flow and almost get it that glassy looking finish. But to me, a glass finish, it looks like when you look at the reflection of glass, and really that is only achievable by flat and polishing. It's not out of a spray gun. You're always going to see some sort of real fine orange peel, real fine texture, or if it's flooded on there on a flat surface, it's still going to have that sort of almost like watery look, you know, as if it had a sheet of water over it. To get that true glass, it's got to be blocked out. That clear coat's got to be blocked out. So there's so many different ways of doing it, and later on you'll see the way I done it on this. And yeah, it's a really satisfying thing to do. It's time consuming, and there's a lot of grades you have to go through. but I do find it really satisfying, and yeah, really enjoyed it on this one. I'm just finishing up the prep now. Dual action sander, 5 inches grit. I use the thick 10mm interface pad and just keep that DA moving.